right, good evening, Florence, and welcome to our sixth and most likely our last edition of Facebook Live to just share with the community a lot of the decisions and a lot of things that are going on in our school district. We hope that these segments have provided you with some information that is helpful and that has allowed us to get through this time period. We are on, I think, maybe week 9. Everybody's shaking their head. They don't know how long, but it's been a long period of time. But the good thing and the thing we're going to share tonight is that there is an end to our school year coming soon. For some parents and grandparents that are homeschooling and that can't come soon enough, and we appreciate everyone. And that's how I want to start tonight, is again just thanking everyone in our school district and our community who has really stepped up and made a difference to make this all work for our students and our community. You know, it's not just our teachers, it's the assistants, it's guidance counselors who are reaching out to students, it's our nurses who are not only helping in our community but also with our own staff. It's our custodians who are still in our buildings, making sure they're clean and ready to go. They're our tech team, who is a couple of them are here tonight to make these broadcasts come together for us and are delivering the internet to our students across Florence. Our bus drivers, again, food service people who are on the front line, who probably didn't realize a couple months ago that they were the essential people to our operation. We knew how important they were, but becoming essential has a different meaning in today's world. Our administrators, I can't forget them, who have really implemented our plan and ensured that their buildings were operating. You know, we say that the governor has closed school, but you know, he really closed our building. The school is really open, and we're just trying to make that work. So our public relations people, Melissa, who's with us, and Pam, who is at home and does our daily updates as well. And then thank parents for working with us through this to really ensure that Florence, as I said from the beginning, this was really our time to shine, and I think we really have. From the first day, we have led this state in what it should look like in its response. And as we go through the information this evening, what our motto is just going to be finishing strong. And we want to be as strong at the end as we were in the beginning, and I think that'll really set us up for a really start of our school year come August. This evening, I'm joined just by one co-host, Miss Beth Holzback, who is our lead district nurse, who has been with us on several segments. She's going to start this evening, and then the rest of the evening, I will go through a lot of the details to end the school year. But Beth, this evening, I'd like you to talk a little bit, or maybe start off with describe the process for those that are watching and those that are in our community. If someone actually, whether they're in our schools or in the community, most likely in our schools, has the coronavirus or tests positive, what's that process look? Who's involved? Who gets notified? If you could just walk through that for us.
I'll be glad to, Dr. O'Malley. Thank you. When we receive notification that an employee has tested positive for coronavirus, COVID-19, and there is work history related to the positive test result, DHEC contacts me by my cell phone or office phone. The preference is my cell phone because they can reach me at any time. At that point, we help DHEC in identifying and providing contact information for anyone who's considered a close contact. So close contact is defined as someone who has an interaction with someone who tests positive for greater than 10 minutes at a distance that's closer than 6 feet. So therefore, that's the importance of social distancing for everyone. But if that occurs, we provide DHEC with the contact information for those employees, co-workers, anyone who it may be who's identified as a close contact. We have expanded the list on occasion because sometimes when you're looking back for a week, you can't maybe remember who you were in close contact with. So we look at work history, what the job duties were, where that employee might have been, and help provide the contact information. At that point, the contacts are then notified, and they're instructed to quarantine, monitor for symptoms, or other issues based on what DHEC finds in their investigation of their case. Not everyone who is contacted needs to be tested. That's an important fact that people need to be aware of. I think everyone, because of the anxiety out there, feels like if they may have come in contact with someone who may have coronavirus, that they should be tested for the virus. But they are actually to monitor for symptoms and then to proceed with their healthcare provider or the other resources in the community that can offer testing if they need it at that point.
So you really don't have a lot of say who gets contacted, who doesn't. That you're following the DHEC guidelines, and they're the ones making those contacts.
Right. We assist DHEC. What I've tried to do is follow up with our employees. And, as odd as this sounds, I have enjoyed having contact with employees who may need someone to reach out to with questions about whether they may have been in contact. We don't do general press notification. For me as a nurse, that would be a violation of HIPAA. We have to protect the privacy of our employees. So I know that that's been a question that's come up in the community, but as an employer, we cannot do that.
And you said there's a lot of anxiety, understandable, given, we have, we all kind of go to bed with the number of deaths and wake up to the number of deaths. So that sort of really scares people, and we recognize that. But I think what you want to share and what we want to share is that there are specific procedures, regulations that we're going through and working with DHEC, and that we are working with them. And just because someone is in that area or that group doesn't mean they automatically get tested or automatically come in contact. But again, as you just said, if anyone that works for our district has any questions or any kind of concerns, you're available?
I am. I definitely am, and they're welcome to reach out to me.
And I know a couple have already, and you do that, as you said. So
yes, and I try to follow up with phone calls as well.
So if, did you have something you wanted to add, or?
No, I think our community resources are good as far as the testing availability. That's been another question that communities have experienced or commented about. But I think in Florence County, we have good testing availability and follow-up. And DHEC, if I have a question, I call DHEC. They've been great to work with.
Awesome. So if there is someone that tests positive and they're in a facility, can you tell us a little bit about what we do as a district as far as cleaning that area, things like that?
So CDC puts out specific guidelines for us with the cleaning. Now, for everyone to realize, in our facilities, starting at the end of February, we reached out to our custodial staff. We provided step-by-step instructions on how to clean the facilities. As reminders, I feel like our custodial and maintenance staff does a great job in providing what our buildings need, but we did step-by-step instructions linked with videos to provide that initial step, and that was at the end of February, the first part of March. Since then, if we are notified that someone may have become sick while they were at work, we do go back into the facility, clean it according to CDC guidelines, which are not much different from what we're already doing with the disinfectants, but we do make sure that we are going over every surface that someone may have come into contact with.
And I think we have a picture. Can you tell us what that picture is?
I will, yes. So in addition to what we're doing with the disinfectant wipes and wiping down the surfaces, we have been able to obtain a piece of equipment that delivers a spray, and it's electrostatically charged. So you can go into an area and spray the area, and because of the charge on the spray, the disinfectant or sanitizing agent will stick to the surface that you're cleaning, and it's safe for food surfaces. It sits on the surface and dries and provides an extra layer, and maybe even sometimes when you're thinking about cleaning your house, just some of those crevices and that type thing where viruses and bacteria can lie in wait, but it does provide an extra layer of cleaning. And we've tried to do that especially in our food service areas today, because they were not being used by our kitchen staff. So I think it's a good measure that we can add to what we're already doing.
And the district is going to purchase one of those for every school and several other buildings. So we'll have those in now and then preparation for next year. So it goes in the air and it settles and it cleans. My dad always taught you need to put a little elbow grease.
Well,
without any elbow grease, does it still work?
So it doesn't do away with the need for elbow grease. So the friction and the rubbing, which nurses love because we love hand washing with friction, is still important. But just that extra level of protection that it offers in a big area.
Okay. Did you want to talk a little bit about medication in our schools for our students that is still available?
I do. So our school nurses are available, and actually we're beginning to work on site with some of our staff members, if I can go into that
Sure,
first.
absolutely.
We're going to be working with transportation and food service on site to provide our nurses for additional monitoring. CDC, as school nurses, y'all know, we keep up with their ever-changing guidelines, which as more research is done and we learn more about the virus, they're almost daily updates. And so we're looking at that. This weekend, there was a change in the list of symptoms, and so we updated our employee monitoring tool to reflect that. Since we're implementing that in the middle of a week, we wanted our nurses to be present in the areas where we're going to implement those forms so that we can, talk with employees about why the list has changed and that type of thing. I think it'll be good for them to be aware. And it also increases employee awareness to be aware of changing information and symptoms as it's updated. So our school nurses are glad to do that. We're still engaged and employed and involved by the district, and we want to reach out to parents and continue to provide any assistance we can at the school level. So now that we have been informed that we will not be actually returning to the buildings for the remainder of the school year, any parents who have medications at school that they would still like to pick up, the nurses are going to reach out to parents and arrange a time for them to come and pick up the meds, following the same procedure that we had previously.
So would they contact just the main number at the school or the nurse's office directly, or both?
So either or, yes. So since our nurses are helping at other sites, they may not be in the building at that time. When the parents are contacted, they'll set hours that they'll be there for the parents to come and pick up the meds. But yes, if there are any questions, they can contact the school that their child attends or the nurse's phone number.
So before you leave, I just want to review what you just said. So new procedures go into effect for bus drivers and food service. We'll have a nurse on site, new checklists, new procedures when they arrive at work to ensure that we have people that are coming to work that are healthy, and if they have any questions, they can get them answered right when they arrive at work.
Exactly, yeah. And with the symptom change, we just felt like that was important for us to be there in person as a resource for them. So.
Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to share?
I can't think of anything else. Do you have any more questions for me?
No, I think you and I talk a lot during the day,
We do.
And that's a good thing, and I think that's hopefully informative. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. We're going to let you go, so my social distancing will be down to just myself, and we will abide by those rules. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we are going to continue now with some real good headlines that I think most people have been wanting to hear, or at least students, especially seniors, as we get into some of the final days of school. So with the governor closing our school buildings, our school year will remain intact as the calendar is delineated currently for the 2019-20 school year. And what that means is May 29th is our last day officially for school. However, we will make May 21st, which is a Thursday, the last day of e-learning, and will be the last day of the marking period for the fourth marking period, second semester. And so that May 21st will be a time where the next 5 days, we will be off for Memorial Day on May 25th, will be a chance for students to make up work, any final reviews, any kind of grading that has to be done. It's not completely shutting down, but allows us to finish the year with a process. Seniors still finish on May 15th. That guidance was provided a couple weeks ago, although there are a few seniors that will be taking some AP exams that go as long as May 21st. But for parents and students, May 21st is a time where you can say the end is coming near, and that will be the end of the conclusion for the activities of e-learning going on for this school year. For the remaining Fridays, May 1st, May 8th, and May 15th, we are going to make those half-day Fridays. That would mean that there's only a morning session. Teachers and any other support staff, that would be just morning office hours. And we're really looking for those Fridays moving forward, a time for us to review, for those teachers to take a pause on the lessons that they were teaching during the course of the week and ensure that everyone's caught up, try to review some facts and utilize those opportunities as we get into the end of the year. It starts this Friday. If you didn't know, Friday is May 1st, so we're excited to get into May and close out our school year. As we continue down some additional resources, I want to let you know that just like we did coming out of spring break, we have some resources on our website that allows parents, guardians, grandparents in the K-8 to have some reteaching, some videos to really assist those that are what we call now homeschooling, the opportunities to get an idea of what they're teaching. So those links are on the website. I'm sure they're going to be posted as I'm speaking right now. But I think you're really, we've had some teachers, our content supervisors, and our technology department really coming up with a platform to help everyone. That is on the other end for teachers as well, to help them design the lessons. Everyone should be in that general area, so their information that's provided and for kindergarten through 8th grade will be on there to assist. And I think it's an amazing platform that we've created, and I think it's going to be even better next year when we come back and we really have the ability to have the in-class lessons as well as this hybrid approach going forward. Moving forward, let's talk about food service. So our food service will continue as our normal schedule as it is now till May 28th. And May 28th will be our last day working for our normal schedule for our current food service program. We will have a summer feeding. Although I don't believe the state gave us the start date, we believe it'll be June 1st for the start date of our summer feeding program. That summer feeding program, the application is in, just waiting final approval for that, but it'll be at 7 locations. There will not be bus service for our summer feeding. Breakfast will be from 7:30 to 8:30, and then lunch would be from 10:30 to 12:30. Again, that summer feeding program will start on June 1st. More information will come out about the 7 locations, and then 7:30 to 8:30 for breakfast and 10:30 to 12:30 at those locations for lunch. May 28th, again, is a end of the food service program for the school year. We can't thank those workers who work every day to help us deliver the food to our community. Remember, we were really aggressive at the beginning. We did lunch, we did breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We were doing it 5 days a week. We were serving somewhere between 15,000 meals in that week, which is a pretty large enterprise, almost similar, if not close to what we were doing when school was in session. We have continued along those lines and curtailing that back as the pandemic took place and as we were trying to make things a little bit better. So we cut down the locations, added some additional community routes. The one thing that we did do that we felt was important is not only feeding our students, but those in our community as well. And so we think from the beginning, our school district has really stepped up to help our community as a whole, not just our students, but overall as a community. And we definitely thank everyone. I don't think that we can say that enough. I don't think there's enough that can be done to recognize the bus drivers and food service people. As you saw maybe last week, we even have community members now trying to help. As we scale down our workers on the number of days that they work, our community has stepped up, and even some of the businesses in town have stepped up to help deliver the food as well. It's a great community thing, but it's also given our workers an opportunity to curtail the amount of exposure that they have. So I appreciate everyone in our community stepping up, helping our students and everyone to deliver the food service. When we go to special education, so our special education program will continue. Our IEP meetings will continue throughout the summer. We have 146 that were scheduled this week alone, and all those are being done virtually. So we've really been ahead of the curve, even with our IEP meetings, our annual reviews in preparation. I thank Mr. Denny and his team of administrators and teachers to make that work. And 146 is a pretty large number to get accomplished. I think it's actually larger than if we were actually physically in school. And so those will continue throughout the school year and probably into the summer as well. Our extended school year will start on June 3rd. Currently, it will be virtual as the restrictions are currently in place. We are awaiting some guidance this week, early next week, on possibility of opening our schools to individual summer interaction based upon a student's IEP. So please be ready for some additional notification that'll come out. We will continue along those lines. And our students, and when we talk a little bit about the collection of textbooks and Chromebooks and things like that, we will collect our students with special needs Chromebooks as well, because we want to ensure that we wipe them down, clean them, make sure they're updated and everything's working, and then we will reissue them to the students who have extended school year. So those parents that have students that have extended school year, when we go to collect the Chromebooks, those will be collected as well, cleaned, repaired in any way, and then reissued to the students that have that opportunity to have extended school year. Okay, let's get into some of the academic parts of what we need to do. So when we closed school on March 13th, we were prepared for that Friday when we left to begin this process first thing Monday morning. But just like anything else, the school is left the way it is. So we've got to ensure that both our staff and our students have an opportunity to either go into their classrooms, go into their school, retain some personal belongings or any kind of things that they may need for the summer, and we're going to provide those opportunities. For our staff in the middle school and the high school, in the elementary school, it'll be between during the week of the 18th through the 22nd. So staff in the elementary will have the opportunity to come into school. The individual principals will be sending out a schedule to their staff to ensure that we stick with the governor's executive order, social distancing to maintain, but also give them an opportunity to get into their schools. Middle schools and high schools will start on the 27th of April and go all the way until May 8th. There's a little bit more staff involved there, so they need a little bit more time, ensure that we don't have a large portion of our staff in the building at the same time. So again, staff, if you would ensure that you will be notified by your building principal about the schedule of when you can come into your building. get some personal belongings, wrap up some of the end of the year school materials, collect your materials in your classroom, and get ready for next year. As far as students go, students in the elementary grades between May 22nd and 6/3, and again in the individual schools, we'll be sending out some information, a schedule, either by grade level or possibly alphabetically, depending on the building principal. But they'll have the opportunity, students as well, to get into the school if they have personal belongings, a backpack or a lunchbox or whatever it may be, to get into the school. The principals will also be developing a process in which students can return any textbooks or any other belongings that belong to the school, as well as their Chromebook. We will begin a process of collecting Chromebooks where they will be stored for 3 days untouched, and then they'll begin the process of cleaning and repairing them over the summer. We want to allow, in working with our health professionals, they believe that putting them in a room for 3 days allows a little bit of time to securely allow our tech professionals to look at and to take those Chromebooks afterwards. So that'll be the process for that. And then for middle school and high school, it'll also be May 22nd through the 29th. Again, a schedule will come from the building principals to ensure that we've adequately addressed social distancing and the governor's executive orders of congregation of multiple groups of people. So again, look for your building principals to send out a schedule and notify you, both staff and students, about coming into the school and returning supplies and getting your personal belongings. We believe we've got a good plan. Those times will be announced shortly, and please pay attention to most likely your email or any social media that we have to make those announcements. As we move forward, I want to talk a little bit, before I talk about marking periods, some of those things, unfortunately, I have to deliver the news that most of our seniors and juniors, quite frankly, have been asking. Spring sports, as you know, are canceled. Any field trips, any other opportunities that clubs were going to do that involve travel or engagement or any kind of academics. Proms, unfortunately, are canceled at this point. There's nothing that allows us to organize those type of events given the current restrictions. Even the venues that would host those events wouldn't allow us to begin that process to coordinate them under our current conditions. And so at this point in time, those events are canceled for the remainder of the year, and we are going to look for, and we'll talk about in a couple of minutes about graduation. But before I do, just kind of want to talk about marking periods and report cards. Elementary schools, actually, their interim reports were mailed today. We would ask middle school and high school parents to check Power School, because the interims for our middle school and our high school will be available on Power School. Elementary, again, were delivered to the mail today, and you should be receiving those shortly. Our marking period, again, for our seniors ends on May 15th, and then for everyone else on May 21st. Our report cards will be mailed this year to every student. In that report cards for elementary and middle school, they will be mailed on June 2nd. And then for our high school students, they will be mailed on June 5th. There's a little bit more to a high school report card and the grades and the calculations, and we just needed a few more days to be mailed. Again, report cards will be mailed to every student. Elementary and middle school will be on the 2nd of June, and then high school will be on the 5th of June. And please, parents in middle school and high school, please check Power School to check for your interims for your child, currently for the 4th marking period. As we move back, let's talk a little bit about graduation. And I think that's something that everyone has on their minds across the country, given where we are. We will have a graduation. The graduation dates will remain the same as they are on the calendar. Wilson High School is May 27th. South Florence High School is May 28th. And West Florence High School is Friday, May 29th. So those days will remain the same. The times may change depending, as I'll talk about some of our plans, given the opportunities that we may be afforded. So we really went into this organization of graduations understanding our restrictions now, but also optimistic that possibly they could change between now and the end of May, given some of the opening of the businesses and things in South Carolina. So we went at it to try to accommodate both of those, whether we're in the same restrictions or they get loosened up a little. We also wanted to accomplish two goals that we've really heard from parents, students, regarding graduation. And I think the two things that resonated with us across all three high schools were that the students really wanted to walk across the stage and receive their diploma. Whatever that looked like, that was a big part of the ceremony that they'd like to still have intact. And then parents really wanted to be there at whatever they had to do, whether it was masks or distancing in their cars. Parents really felt like they needed to be there, or the guardians as well. So we kind of went into our plans with those things in common. So here's what we have currently. And again, I'll talk a little bit more, some of the announcements will be made later in the week. So I'll start backwards with Plan C. Our Plan C, in which we have three plans, would be to have our traditional graduation at the Florence Center at 7 o'clock inside the Florence Center, as we traditionally have done. And that's really the case if the restrictions are all lifted and we have complete access to get into the building without voiding or be part of any kind of illegal activity that would make congregation of more than 10 people in a room. And that is what we have planned. So that is what we will continue to have all through the end of May, is that opportunity. So if there's any kind of loosening of those restrictions, we still have that in place as where we'd like to go, which is our Plan C. Our Plan B then would be then to understand the regulations that are still in place and try to achieve some of those goals. So what we would do is then move the graduation ceremony outside the Florence Center into the parking lot. We would still have a stage. We would still have the regular ceremony with speeches and recognitions. We would still have the ability to distance the kids 6 feet apart so they can come to the stage and receive their diploma. Obviously, we would not allow a handshake from the superintendent or board members. We're going to have to think of what we can do there, maybe a special dance or elbows or any other way that we could acknowledge that there. But I think receiving that diploma from their principal or board members or the superintendent is something we wanted to do. What we will have to do, though, is if we're outside, is still comply with the opportunity that we can't have large gatherings. So we're going to design it almost. The drive-in movie theaters have now worked their way back through this pandemic as well, and that's how we would be. In cars, parents could decorate their cars for their seniors, but they would have to remain in their cars. They would be able to see the ceremony either on screens. We would also stream it live. We would also have our buses there, so if parents don't have access to the internet, we'd be able to stream from our buses. They could watch it on a handheld device inside their car. They obviously would be able to hear. We would have a photographer there to capture the moment where your child receives their diploma, so you wouldn't miss that opportunity. But outside, we'd have to stagger it as a drive-in movie approach, but we still have a stage, but that restricts us to approximately one car per graduate. So that's kind of limiting us, but it kind of accomplishes a lot of the goals that we are trying to achieve in that sense. Our final Plan A is to have a larger facility. We delayed this Facebook Live because we thought we'd have the announcement tonight. We're still in the works of trying to finalize a larger venue that would still be the same premise as the Florence Center, where we would have a stage, large screens, audio. Parents would be able to, in some cases, pull in drive-in movie style. We would probably be able to do a little bit more as far as maybe 2 cars per graduate, depending on how much opportunities we have. There would also be some additional seating if we followed social distancing and being apart. That could help as well. We're excited about this opportunity. We are going there tomorrow to take a look at it and try to finalize that. And so that's our plan A. If that comes through, we will have an announcement early, either Wednesday or early Thursday about that. If that is a possibility, the last thing we would say is that if that comes through and the Florence Center, and both are pretty much the same, we're going to allow our seniors to take a vote which one what kind of venue they would like to have for their graduation. We felt it was important to give them an opportunity to have a voice. If that venue falls through, then it'll always be at the Florence Center, either indoors or outdoors, whatever the event at that time. The restrictions that are we're under will be followed. So that's our plans for graduation. I was excited to possibly announce those this evening, but I tried to give you as much information. The date remains the same. Times may have to be a little bit flexible given the time of the day, especially if we're outdoors and the heat and some of those things with the sun, especially if we're in a drive-through with the asphalt that radiates some additional heat. So we want to provide some accommodations there. By the end of the week, by Friday, I anticipate to have everything solidified as far as date, time, and venue for graduation. So we would go into May being able to plan for that graduation ceremony and to make it a pretty memorable and remarkable opportunity for our seniors. They've lost a lot this year. We've recognized that. It's unfortunate. This is the way it is. But if we can make this one last event memorable and remarkable, I think they'll remember it for the rest of their lives, and that's what we're trying to do for them. So that's graduation and where we are with graduation. A couple other things. As we really focus on graduation, all of our schools will be trying to do end-of-the-year ceremonies, recognition in some way or another. We had planned for middle schools to also graduate at the Florence Center this year. Unfortunately, that had to be canceled. We just can't accommodate and organize that for the first time this year. So middle schools will follow what they have done in previous years, most likely virtually or in some other manner. The middle school principals are working on those right now and be in contact and communication with our parents and our students regarding that. But everyone will try to do some sort of recognition at the end of the year. I know this evening West Florence started to recognize their spring sports. So they did something called the Westies off of ESPN's version, and everyone is doing something. I know Wilson High School did their male and female athlete of the year early on virtually, so everyone will have that opportunity. It'll be different, it'll look different, but we still want to make sure that those recognitions, those ceremonies, and those traditions are carried on the best they can in the restrictions that we have. So look forward to doing those. We started with talking about thanking people and the amount of stress that has been on people just being home, being around a lot of family for a lot of time, and just being cooped up in the house and having all that going on. We know there's been a lot of stress and a lot of things going on, not only here in Florence in our households, but across the nation. So I want to remind everyone that we do have a crisis hotline. That hotline is manned by our staff and our psychologists and our school-based therapists. I thank Ms. Spears and our tech team for putting that together. I want to give you that hotline one more time. It's 843-664-8170. So if you need help, if you need someone to talk to, if you need resources and you don't know where to turn, that hotline is there for everyone in Florence to use to assist in any way. Please feel free. We keep it as anonymous as we can, if that is your wish, but we really want to provide as many resources to our community as we can, and we appreciate the opportunity to share that hotline with our community to hopefully add or take away a little bit of the stress, or to provide some resources or help in any way that we can. And I appreciate everyone putting that together. Finally, before we get into some questions, a couple other things as we begin to prepare for next year. As you're aware, and you can see on our website, we have going on our kindergarten registration. That is ongoing, so please, if you have a kindergartner entering our school district for the 2020-21 school year, please register your kindergarten student, or if you know of a neighbor or someone in the community, please let them know as well. We also want to talk a little bit about registration for all of our students for the 2020-21 school year. So on June 8th, that's a Monday, that would be June 8th, we'll open up the registration. Remember, we start school on August 3rd this year. In some cases, that turned out to be a pretty good blessing, knowing where we ended this school year, e-learning, and starting a little earlier. You'll see a lot of school districts across the state are trying to follow us in our calendar, and we were ahead of the game in a lot of different ways, and this is just another way that we were trying to ensure that we started school a little bit earlier. But June 8th is when our registration for all of our students in all grades will open. When you receive that report card in the mail, whether it's in early June on the 2nd or so for elementary and middle school, or the 5th for high school, in that mailing will be two very important things. If you do utilize our transportation system, our bus service, your bus pass or bus information will be in that report card, so you'll have that ahead of time. The second important piece of information is a letter, what we call our SNAP code, and you need that SNAP code in order to register. So those pieces of information will be in the mailing with your child's report card that'll be coming out. If you are a pre-K or a kindergartner, you don't need a SNAP code, so if anybody's worrying and watching out there that's registering a kindergartner, you do not need that for our 4K or our kindergarten. So parents, please look for that report card in the mail in early June, because it also not only contains your child's transcript, your report card, but it also contains that SNAP code, the link for registration, and if you choose or utilize our transportation bus service, the information on your child's transportation for the following school year will be in there as well. So please take a look at that. That link for registration obviously will be on our website. We'll push it out through our app, through all of our social media sites. That'll be provided for everyone. So it was very successful in our first launch last year. We expect to be even better next year. If you don't register, and we have to register and provide additional information and register what we call on-site, those dates will be July 20th through the 24th. And again, in-person registration will be July 20th through the 24th for the 2020-2021 school year. I believe that is, I've done a lot of talking this evening. I think that is all that I have to share. It's a lot of information, but it's going to get us through the year. Let me see if we have any questions. One of the questions is, when will the seniors receive their yard signs? So if you remember from the last time, for our seniors, we've done really two things. We've purchased all the billboards in Florence. I think there's 15 of them. So we'll have congratulations to our seniors for all three high schools, both digitally and in a poster form throughout Florence. But we also bought yard signs for all of our seniors to put on their front lawn. It has their picture and has their name for everyone to see. They are being printed now. We hopefully will have them delivered, if not by the end of the week, early next week. Your principals will be sending out how you will receive them, very much probably how you received your supplies, your senior supplies from Jostens. You'll pull up by alphabet in a different day, but we should get them. I believe Wilson High School will be first. Those were the first to go to the printers, and then I believe it was West Florence and South Florence will follow very shortly after there. So seniors, pay attention from emails from your principals. It should be by the end of the week or early Monday to get those as well. Next question is, will summer reading camp be virtual? Right now, our extended school year is something that we do locally. It'll start on June 3rd, and that's for our special needs students. Right now, it's virtually. We'll have some leniency, we expect, to work with them differently. Any kind of summer camp, summer reading camp that is comes from the state. We are awaiting guidance from the state about those opportunities. I know they're trying to expand it and talk about when they're going to start it. I would assume right now it will start out at least as virtual and then may evolve to a hybrid of some sort depending on where we are as a state with restrictions at that time. But summer reading camp, I don't have all the information because that comes from the state. But we know we're going to have it in some form or another. We know we have to expand it as well as the number of students, and the state is working on that as well. The amount of money coming from the federal government stimulus, both the governor and the state superintendent have discretionary funds, and I know both of them are committed to the summer reading camp, which they want to put extra funds towards to expand it, not only for students, but also the time frame. So we look forward to hearing that announcement. We'll make that announcement out to our community as well. Who to contact for, the next question is, who should we contact for changes in address so students can receive report cards? I would say call the school immediately. That would be their first contact because they're being mailed out from the school. If you cannot, you can always dial the main number and we can put you in touch with someone that can help as well. But start at the school and you should be able to have that address as well. If for some reason you can't get through to your school, call the main district number, and Krista, who works our switchboard from home in the safety of her home, has done a great job. She logs all the calls, and I want to thank her for all of her hard work and ensuring that all these calls get routed to the right people. So call that number and they will direct you to the right person that you can give that information to. All right, let's see what the next question. How will the district handle tryouts for fall sports? That's so with the inclusion of one, we were trying to figure out what we're going to do for fall sports. Again, that guidance has to come from the South Carolina High School League as well as the State Department. I think they're just trying to figure out what the restrictions will be at that point in time. So we don't really have any information as far as fall sports go and when the tryouts are going to be, the blackout dates and all those things. I do know that our coaches are still keeping in contact with our student athletes, whether it's the spring sports or going into the fall season for next year. So I commend our coaches. They didn't fall back at any point in time in this process. They continue to work with and stay in contact with our athletes, and we appreciate that. I don't have the information because that'll come from the state. As soon as we have that information, we will share that with our community. How can students get their yearbooks? I believe middle school started sending out some information today on obtaining their yearbooks and that process. Again, that'll be at the building level. So the principals, once those yearbooks are received, they will put together a process in which the distribution of those yearbooks will happen. We're hoping that we can do it in alignment with some of the other activities that we have at the end of the year. But please pay attention, especially in the high school, because that'll be later on in May. I think I saw a couple of social media posts and app that some of the middle schools were starting that process now. So that'll come from the building principals as well. Let's see if I have any more questions. That yearbook was the last. So there's a question about tuition, and I would assume that question is for students that are out of district. That was approved by the board early on in the, I think it might have been February. The board decided to keep tuition at its current rate as it was in the 2019-20 school year. That is $3,000 for any student that's new to our district and $1,500 for that first student that was in the school district in the previous year. It then declines if you have multiple students from their discount to that. But know that the Board of Trustees kept the tuition for out-of-district students at the same level as it was in the preceding school year at 1920. Any other questions? Well, that ends our Facebook Live for this evening. We've always tried to keep it to less than an hour, or right on an hour, and we stick with our word here. And we hope that these have been helpful in learning firsthand about the information. I think it's really helped in controlling what I like to call the rumor mill on social media and people not knowing, and hopefully everyone knows and hears the message at the same time, I think has been very helpful. I want to, again, thank everyone for their opportunity, our tech guys for making this happen for us, Melissa, who's here in what we'll call Studio A to get us our questions that our community is asking. We really missed, and we started off at South Florence and with our students helping us, and we really think they did a good job. We wanted to continue with that, but we also wanted to make sure we were advising by the executive order of the governor and our social distancing. We hope next year that this will propel for us to do some additional programming, utilizing our students at South Florence and our TV studio there, so we're excited about that. We want to make sure that I end like we started, that we asked everyone in Florence to support our small businesses here. We've done this from day one, whether it's our billboards or me screaming on the mountaintop here saying that they're the backbone of our community. They've always supported our schools, and we need to support them. And now more than ever, if we can continue to do that, I think everybody recognizes that as well. So I appreciate everyone. I appreciate us getting through this. We're going to finish strong. So Florence, be safe, be healthy, and thank you, and have a good evening.